Didn't know you just played, crazy.
Hey guys, this is Jesse.
I'm Courtney.
And on this week's episode of Marriage Raw and Uncut, we are going to we're going to talk about how to eradicate porn from your life and your relationship. Now, this is a huge topic, as most people know, and likely if you're watching this video, you are experiencing the effects of porn addiction in your life personally or in your relationship with your spouse. That being said, you understand the importance of this topic, and so yeah, we're going to get right into it. We're just going to lay it out there as we understand it and how we've tell you our story of how we've basically come to beat porn and remove it from our relationship, and are experiencing great intimacy and success in living a porn-free life. And I assure you, it is so much better than what you're experiencing right now. So yeah, no excuses. What happens when you're dealing with porn addiction, a lot of times you don't understand what's going on, and when you don't understand it, you tend to just start making up excuses as to why you are an addict, because you have no idea where to start on how to overcome this addiction. And I'm going to lay out the science behind porn addiction as I understand it and how I've researched it, and show you that it's not complicated, it's not some crazy spiritual darkness or whatever it is, depending on your beliefs, that's causing you to be an addict. That it's actually just a very scientific, simple explanation, and that you have control over all the variables, and therefore you can fix and stop addiction in your life. So yeah, it's 100% your responsibility to overcome your addiction. Okay, there's no blame, there's no excuses. Okay, so that being said, I also want to be completely clear and say that porn is super destructive. It is harmful to everybody involved. It's unsustainable in a relationship. It's unsustainable in life, period. Okay, porn is a fantasy. It's not reality. It's destructive, and that's enough said. What happens when you allow porn into a relationship, even if your spouse is involved in watching porn, whatever it is, you're living a fantasy. And the moment you start living a fantasy, which is what porn is, your foundation just comes out from underneath you, because you have no tangible, real foundation in your relationship. You have no intimacy, and so basically the fantasy gets carried away, lust, all sorts of things get carried away, and you have nothing to base your relationship off of. You have no intimacy, you have no memories, you have no real love, you have no unconditional love in your relationship, so eventually it's just going to crumble and fall apart. Okay, so it's not sustainable. That being said, let's talk about the science behind porn addiction. A lot of you know about the brain, and that as you look at things, like especially porn, the more you look at it, the deeper you dig grooves in your brain that are called neural pathways, where the neurons continue to move down these pathways, of looking at porn, and so you kind of dig a huge ditch right into your brain. That is your natural go-to, and the more you do it, the deeper the ditch is dug, and the harder it is to get out of that ditch. And so that being said, the key that I found that gave me breakthrough in overcoming porn addiction was understanding the difference between your conscious and your subconscious mind. Okay, so everybody has two minds. Okay, you have your subconscious mind and your conscious mind. And now, as I understand it, the subconscious mind is responsible for about 90 to 95% of your daily routines and movements, and it's basically controlling your thoughts and your actions 95% of the time, and your conscious mind is the other 5 to 10%. Now, what your subconscious mind is basically it's everything you learned from the moment you were born to about 6 or 7 years of age. And this point in your life, when you're born, your mind is in what's called like a hypnotic state. Your brain waves are in a hypnotic state, whereas you're just basically downloading information because you have no, memory to process information and come up with thoughts and create your own perspective. You're basically just receiving information and it's just burning right onto your hard drive of your mind. Okay, so this is what your subconscious mind is. Just picture it as a hard drive on a computer. Okay, and so it's just information is just being downloaded constantly, right, from the moment you're born till about 6 or 7 years old. So everything your parents say to you, everything people say to you, your friends, whatever, you're just taking it as literal information, fact, whatever your parents called you stupid or they called you beautiful or whatever, you just believe it immediately because that's just the state that your brain is in. Okay, so a lot of you can say, oh, okay, well, I had a lot of bad programming, if this is the truth, which it is. And so how do I deal with all the crap that was programmed into me when I was a child? That is what we're going to talk about in part 2. And so we're just going to expound a little bit more on part 1 of this video, which is just understanding your mind. Okay, so now your conscious mind, this is the other part of your mind, is like your imagination. It's your thoughts. It's like you're thinking about your future. It's your dreams. It's your desires. All these things, which you think about a lot. And so when you're thinking about these things, your subconscious mind is basically driving your body and your actions and your day-to-day tasks while you're dreaming and daydreaming and thinking about the future and planning and all these things with your conscious mind. So basically your subconscious mind is just like your backup motor, but it's honestly running most of the time because our conscious mind is always somewhere else. It's never present. Okay, so that explained for me a big part of the issue was, once I watched all sorts of different documentaries that expose the reality of how destructive porn is, how it fuels the sex trade, which is just destroying lives by the thousands, and I realized that, okay, porn is bad. It's just bad. There's no way to justify it as good or, a victimless crime or it's not hurting anybody. It is. And so once I knew that, my conscious mind was like, okay, this is disgusting. The addiction has to stop. I don't want to do this. Why do I find myself jerking off in front of the computer constantly when I have a smoking hot wife? It's just like it didn't make sense to my conscious mind. And it wasn't until I realized that basically I have subconscious programming that was just basically looping, right? It's just a cycle that was continuing to replay, and no matter how much I hated it, no matter how much I wanted to stop, here came this program, and it just kept replaying and replaying, okay? And that is the key right there, you guys, is once you see that there's a program in your subconscious mind that was programmed into your brain at a young age, that this is the cycle that is destroying you. And through addiction, whether it's drugs, whether it's porn, like all of this stuff, it all comes back to the mind. So your goal for this video, for this week's video, is to find the root. You need to find the root of your bad programming. For me, my root was my parents. I grew up in a kind of really religious Christian home, and my natural, God-given design, curiosity, my natural curiosity towards the opposite sex, towards the female form, which is completely natural, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it was my parents put a shame on it as a young child, and because they didn't really know how to deal with my natural programming, my hormones and my desire to see a beautiful naked woman. And so a lot of people have experienced this as basically shame. Don't look at women. That's bad. You shouldn't want to do that. You shouldn't want to see a woman naked. Those are bad things. Those are bad thoughts. And so I had this shame put upon me whenever I desired to see a woman or desired or thought a woman was beautiful and wanted to see a naked woman, I immediately thought this is a bad thing. I'm a bad person, and shame became my motive. And okay, so that was the cycle. And so obviously these natural desires and processes of growing up are not going to change. They're not going to go away. And so every time I was attracted to women and wanted to see women naked, the only way I knew how to process it was, this is bad and you got to hide it, and don't talk about it, don't give in to it, it's shameful and you're a bad person. And so how I dealt with that was I became a porn addict because the feelings and the desires weren't going away, and I had to find an outlet. Okay, and porn was my outlet. And so basically your task is to find your program, find that bad program in your mind. Now you got to go back to your childhood and just say, what was it? And honestly, it's not going to be that hard to find. And once you realize that, in part 2, we're going to explain how to rewrite your hard drive and how to renew your mind so that you can have a new mind and a new thought process, and all that programming can just be erased, and you get a fresh hard drive and a new life and a new relationship and everything. So tune into part 2. If you would like to learn a bit more about the mind thing, I didn't have enough time to really go into it in depth. There's a scientist that I found, he's got some videos on YouTube. His name is Bruce Lipton. And I'm going to put a link to his video in the description below if you want to watch that in more detail. Go ahead. And then in part 2, we're going to talk about how to renew your mind. So tune in for that next week. And
following part 2, we're going to do part 3 of how to deal with a partner in your relationship who is a porn addict.
Exactly. So
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. It's going to be good stuff. And thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe and throw any comments down below. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.